Okay, so the next identification is the Nanking Massacre in 1937. So we've covered a little bit how Japan had invaded China and Korea and Southeast Asia, the Philippines, and were very ruthless in their invasion, the military dictatorship of Japan. But one of the worst of that was the Nanking Massacre, which occurred in December of 1937. So you see a map here of China, um, and over to the right you see Japan, a very powerful military um, dictatorship that invaded. If you look, you can see kind of in the center to the right, it says Nanjing, um, next to Shanghai. That's also known as Nanking. So when the Japanese invaded, they had taken over Mongolia, and now they had uh, attacked the city, which was completely overwhelmed as far as those Chinese soldiers were there were dealing with old rifles, and they had a few grenades and handguns, where the Japanese military had machine guns, tanks that had landed, jeeps were just industrially way overpowering the Chinese, what little there was of a Chinese army. So when they rolled in, many civilians were killed at Nanking. Um, there's a few pictures of civilians to do with the Nanking Massacre. Let's go to the next slide. Um, we see here, all right, some of the Japanese soldiers marching over a bridge. It looks like they have prisoners, Chinese prisoners, over a bridge near Nanking. So here, this is a good map of the Japanese conquest of a very large section of Southeast Asia. New Guinea, the Dutch East Indies or Indochina, French Indochina, which would later become Vietnam, Burma, um, Korea, and then all of the red is where uh, the Japanese invading force had taken over a lot of eastern China, and Nanking is in there. So the 300,000 who were killed at Nanking was literally millions by the end of the war. Throughout all these areas died. So here you see, yeah, the article on the Nanking Massacre. So it was in 1937, and when the Imperial Japanese Army invaded. Um, okay, another newspaper article on what was going on in Nanking. This was there haven't there's been a few movies about it. This one wasn't specifically about. Well, it was in many ways. It showed um, what was going on during the Chinese occupation, um, and I would think this was around the Nanking area. It was a good movie with Christian Bale, a story of. He wasn't a priest, but he pretended to be a priest to survive the invasion. Another scene from the movie. Let's see the next scene. Right here, he hides out in a Catholic church and pretends to be a priest during the massacre, uh, hoping that he's not killed by the Japanese invading forces. but he's really an alcoholic who's just living in China. But it's a story, but it's based on it's obviously it's a fictional story, but it's based on true events. Another scene from the movie, and the movie really is about people hiding out in the cathedral, some Chinese prostitutes and some Chinese women who are hiding out in the cathedral trying to survive the attack and trying to survive the war. Here, this is a documentary that I haven't seen yet, but I plan on seeing. It's called The Nanking Massacre with Woody Harrelson. It says a well-made documentary about Nanking. This is a memorial to the victims, 300,000. There have been estimates that the deaths of civilians in Nanking range from 50 or 100,000 to 300,000, but it, with the things that I've read, it's very likely it was closer to 300,000. Uh, Someone, paying respects to the Nanking Massacre. And then another picture of the map showing Nanking uh, and its geographical location. So the Nanking Massacre happened uh, in 1937. Uh, the estimated deaths are between 100 to 300,000 civilians who died as a result of the Japanese invasion in December of 1937.